Hello, and thank you so much for joining me tonight. My name is Sasha Reade, and tonight I've got super fun. I'm so excited about this one. I just started out by having a play, and I had so much fun with it, and I'm going to call it DIY resin, fake resin embellishments, because that's what they kind of look like to me, and that's sort of what I was going for. Most of you will have what you need for this tutorial in your stash. And if you don't, you might need one or two sort of ingredients. But if you've got clear embossing powder or the melted powder, which I'm going to use tonight, you'll be set because you probably have some makeup if you don't have any mica powder. But most of us tend to have some kind of mica powder in our stash, and those are the things I'm going to be using tonight in this video. And we're going to be creating our own products and our own fun makes and having a great play. And I'm going to, of course, show you how you can put it all into cards at the end of the video. So I'm using my Arteza mica powder tonight. This is my favorite mica powder. It comes with 60 different colors. I've also got this melted powder. Now this is like embossing powder, but I find it's a tiny bit more tacky, and you can use it to make pretend resin jewelry and things like that. There's lots of stuff you can do with it. You can buy a big tub for around 8 to 10 pounds. It is like a powder. It's not like a grainy embossing powder. It is very much a powder, so it kind of blows around a little bit with the heat tool, but we make it work. So I'm going to start with using this pink mica powder, and I'm going to create our own colors. Now you can use embossing powder, and I will show you what it looks like when you use regular embossing powder, but most of my embossing powder is opaque. I think it's opaque is the right word. So it's not see-through, it's solid. And I wanted something that could blend together, that could kind of mix together like resin does. It kind of gives you this clear, cool look to it. So that's why I'm using the mica powder, because the mica powder and the embossing powder, or the melted in this case, come out clear. So you can kind of do what you would do when you ink blend or when you watercolor, and you can kind of mix your colors. So obviously you want to avoid the colors that are going to make your poo brown color. You want to do the colors that complement each other. So it might be worth looking at the color wheel. I still don't understand the color wheel, but I'm working on it. I'm learning. I kind of stick to my red, blue, and yellow because I know I can't go wrong with those ones. So all I'm doing is just putting a blob of the melted powder in a little pot, and I'm adding in some of the mica powder to color it. I'm using this die here to get started. I really love it because it's a decent sized butterfly. This is from Lou Collins's Textures line, which you can buy on Craft Stash. I will do my best, my ultimate best, to link all the products I used today in the description box below. Forgive me if I forget some, because I do forget some. And also, if they're not available, I can't link them. So I apologize, but I was just having fun and creating with what I had in my stash and having a great old time with myself. So I've gone ahead and glued two together, and that is what I have done with every single one of my little projects tonight. I've just glued two together. Now I started out by making myself a little handle because I thought this is going to get hot, this is going to get messy, I'm going to need a handle to hold on to it. You don't actually need a handle. I left this footage in to show you if you do feel like you need something to hold on to, then that's what you can do, is just glue onto a piece of, a couple pieces of card or chipboard. And then you can go ahead and do the same process and you can hold on to it. But I found actually I didn't need to. I could use my little pokey tool to pick it up if it got stuck in the powder a little bit. It was just really easy to work with. I could grip the sides of it. It wasn't too big of a deal, but it was a bit more difficult to work with and manipulate when I had this giant stick attached to it. So I wanted to share that with you. I thought this was the way forward, and then I quickly realized actually I don't even need it when I got to the second one. So all I'm doing is dipping it into this embossing powder that I've created. Now you really don't need much at all. I did about 8 different colors in the end, and I still have more than 3/4 left of my jar of the melted powder. It goes a long way, and I used this pink powder about 6 times and it's still going strong. I still have some of it left. So you really don't need much. Obviously, when you put the embossing powder on, it doesn't take a lot to cover it. I did about 4 to 5 layers on each one. And I did that many because this is a very fine powder. If you use clear embossing powder, just normal regular embossing powder, you could probably get away with doing this about 3 times. But that is more expensive and it's generally a bit more precious, whereas this melted powder was quite cheap overall. So that's why I'm using it today. So there's my first one done, and to get it off, I just kind of rip it off the back. When I rip it off, it kind of cracks the embossing powder on the front a little bit, so I just go ahead and heat set it. If you want to know the difference between the melted and the embossing powder, just have a Google. They're both made by Wow, and I'm pretty sure I found the description for the difference between them on their Wow website. There isn't a heck of a lot of difference, I don't think. But that's what I used today because it was cheaper. And I have a lot of it in the stash because I got that big old jar. So here is some Wow embossing powder regular powder. This is the pearlescent, violet pearlescent one. And I do the exact same thing with this one, except that I do it about 4 times instead of maybe 5 times. I do the same thing. I press down my Versamark ink pad. I'm sorry, I hope you've been following along with me. I've been yabbering so much. I don't know if you've actually got the instructions. You kind of ink it up with your Versamark embossing ink pad. Oh, get my words right. And then you go ahead and sprinkle your embossing powder over the top, and then you heat set it, and then just repeat that process a few times. So I've got a little clear mat, which is my blending mat that I got from Craft Stash, really cheap and cheerful mat, and I'm just using that when I stamp my VersaFine down because it kind of keeps all that ink in one place. I've also gone ahead and made a blue one, and I do a yellow one and a green one as well, and a glitter one. So I really went to town, and I do one with makeup as well. So I had a great old time with myself. So again, this one I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm doing about 3 to 4 of those sticks worth of powder, the embossing powder. I keep wanting to call it embossing powder, but it's melted powder. And then a few little scoops of the mica powder, and it's really pigmented, so I don't need to do too much, but obviously if you wanted it more pigmented, you could add more. So here's my glitter one. I just put in the melted powder, and then I added a couple squidges of the iridescent glitter, so it's like a see-through glitter. And now I've got my pink one here, and this one to the left is the embossing powder. When you look at them close up, the embossing powder is opaque, so it's quite solid. The other one with the melted powder and the mica powder is quite see-through, so you get kind of almost like a graduated effect in some parts of the butterfly where the powder's gone a bit thinner, or it's, you know, maybe a bit heavier in some places. It just looks different. It kind of looks see-through, which is what it is. It's a see-through. So here I'm going to mix up my little effects. So I'm going to go with my red and my blue, or my pink and my blue, which obviously will make purple in the middle. So I started out by doing the pink, and then I'm running the blue over the other side, and I'm emptying out my tray in between. And I did this just once, and then I realized that actually let's just do the whole entire left side and then the whole entire right side, and then I'm not having to change my tray up constantly. So the tray I'm using is a bead tray. I will link one that's quite similar in the description box for you. I use it for my embossing powder, so I find it much easier than a piece of paper. I tend to dump the paper everywhere or knock it, or whatever the case may be. The little tray just works better for me, and that's why I use it. So here I've gone ahead and done the whole entire blue side, and now I'm finishing off on the pink side. And then I end up with the nice beautiful purple in the middle, because obviously it's a nice translucent kind of color. There's the word I'm looking for, translucent. And I just love it. I love how it looks. I love how those colors blend together. I think it's gorgeous. And so there's the plain pink one that I did on the right, and my graduated colors on the left, and I just love it. It was so easy as well. It was really not rocket science. Now for this one I decided let's try the glitter. So here's the glitter one that I made up, which has just got iridescent glitter and the melted powder mixed together. And I did another 2 or 3 layers of this one. Again, I had to be really careful because the glitter seemed to want to just blow straight off. So I kind of had to heat my heat gun really hot, hold it quite high, and then kind of gradually come in closer so that I didn't blow all the glitter off straight away, because it was quite tricky keeping that glitter on there. But it did work. And I do like the effect. It does look gorgeous. And again, it was just using what was in my stash and creating something fun, and it looks like a bit of a resin embellishment, which is what I was looking for and what I was going for. So the next one that we're going to do is also a bit of fun. This one I went for the 3 colors, so I've gone ahead and applied my first colors, and this is kind of how I did it. I did sort of color by color, starting with the lightest one first, and then adding on more colors as I went, and then heat setting them. And then they all blend together because they're beautiful and translucent, and they just look fantastic. Now I was trying to share it with you close up, and it kept blowing around on me. So there's our multicolored one. Now, if you want to give your multicolored ones or any of your embellishments a bit of a pop, then we can go ahead and add some gold or some silver, some metallic colors, because a lot of resin products have a metallic in them. So all I did was dust the edges with my ink pad, and I just did one layer. And I went ahead and sprinkled on some gold, and I got this gorgeous, gorgeous metallic edge to it. In the end, I almost wanted to do all of them like that. Right, here is using the makeup. So most of us will probably have some makeup in our stash. All I could find was this dark colored eyeshadow. I had a great old set of like really bright colors I picked up from the pound shop, and I don't know where I stuck it. My daughter probably nicked it for some fun. I'm going to take the eyeshadow, which is basically mica powder, and I'm going to scrape it out. But as I'm scraping it out, I'm trying to loosen it up so it mixes a bit. Now you can automatically straight away see the difference between the mica powder and the makeup. The makeup almost looks gray. The mica powder just went bright and colorful like the color it was in its tube. So this was a lot harder to work with, but it is doable. This one took way more layers, probably close to 8 layers to get the color to kind of come through. In the end, I ended up using all of the makeup. You'll see in a second, I scraped the whole rest of that middle one out. This is the first layer, and you can see already it's really difficult to get that pigment to move around and get that pigment to rest. So it does work. If all you've got is makeup, then have a go and try it out. And probably the cheaper, the better. So if you've got the pound shop makeup or the dollar store makeup, that might even be better. And if you've got the loose powder eyeshadow, that's probably going to be even better. So I just wanted to share with you that I did have a go with the makeup, and it does work. You just need to kind of work with it a little bit more. So I kind of like the mica powder because it's quite quick and easy and nice to use, but it is the more costly method, but makeup does work as well. So here we go again. This is number 3 layer. So you can see there's just not much color going on in there, but you'll see the end result in just a second, and I do get enough color that I'm happy with it. So it's a bit blotchy and a bit splotchy, but I think that adds to the effect. And I still make use of it, and I use it in a card, and it looks stunning on the card. So can't complain. Use what you've got and have fun. The whole point of this is just to get out in there and have fun and enjoy yourself with your crafting and make lots of cool things. I got a little carried away, and I really had to stop myself because I was running out of time. So here are the dyes that I used. I've got an Alina's dye here, which is that one that I use the violet powder on. I've got some foliage dyes from her shop as well. And here are all my finished fake resin embellishments. And I love them. And I could have kept going. I really could. It was such good fun. So we're going to turn them into cards. So I've got a few stamps here. I wanted some background stamps. I did grab this stencil in the middle, but I don't end up using it. I do have a go with it off camera, and I didn't like how it looked, so I just scrapped that idea altogether. So we're just going to use a couple background stamps. And we're going to have some fun with that as well, because our focal point we want to be is the embellishment that we've created. We don't want the focal point to be the background and anything else we add to it. We want the rest of it to kind of enhance and complement our embellishment. So I've been playing with these Memento ink pads. These are new in my stash, and I love them. They are beautiful. They work really well. And I'm deciding to go with this sort of the same colors as my embellishments. So my embellishment is pink and blue, so I'm going with pink and blue. And all I'm going to do is ink it up onto my little stamp and spritz it with some water. And it gives kind of a washed out image in the background. So this text isn't overly clear anyways, but once I add the water, it kind of gives it a more washed out, a bit of a lighter look to it. And it complements the embellishment beautifully. So I wish I had gone ahead and done watercolor card for most of these. I do watercolor card for 2 of them, and they look amazing. And I love the result of them a little bit better than just my standard white card. And I did have to wait a bit longer for my white card to dry. But use what you've got in your stash and have fun with it. Either of them worked. It really didn't matter. This one I'm using the light green and dark green because I did use 2 shades of green mica powder, although my mica powder looks more yellow than green. But I love the results. So I'm not using a stamp block with half of them because I want to just get a really blotchy look. I don't want that background to be the focal point. I just want it to complement my embellishment. So again, I'm just having fun and placing them around, and you'll see in a second how I go ahead and finish them off. So I'm just sharing with you a few of the ideas of how I got these backgrounds to where they were and why I did what I did with them, and how you can kind of just have fun. So here are my finished cards. This is the glitter butterfly, and here is the blue makeup powder one, the eyeshadow one. I went ahead and pulled out some of my metallic thread. I'll link this down below. It's from AliExpress. Came in a box of 12 different colors. It's been really useful. Here's the Alina's die, and because my background came out so dark, I decided to pop the background up with some vellum, and I did that on a few of them. So this one's also got the vellum, and I used my ovals from the nesting dies again and popped that behind there, so it kind of nullified that color a little bit more. And I always stick some double-sided adhesive to the back of my vellum, and then I cut it out so that my vellum is completely sticky, so I don't have to worry about how I stick that down. The whole thing is sticky. Again, there's some thread behind that one. And then this one I just stuck directly down. And my sentiment stamps are lovely and go so well with some of these cards. Here's the text one that I did twice over with a little bit of twine around the twig. And that is my video. So these are the text stamps that I used. I'm not sure they're available, but they are lovely little sentiment phrases. They work so well on some cards. And then again, I've got some sentiment strips. I've got my background stamps that I used. Whatever you've got, just dig first. Have a dig and see what you've got in there, because I bet you've got something that will work for this, because it's such an easygoing project. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm sorry it was a bit of a longer one. This is the stencil one that I wasn't happy with, so I didn't really finish that one. But thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had a lovely time, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you. Bye.